Today, I'm hungry and I'm ready for change. I've run too far to still be the same. See who I was, I give it away. Today, no longer bound by what people say. I know that I will make mistakes. I fall, but I refuse to stay. Today, I've been waiting all my life to get to the door. And now it's time to help someone see their life for so much more. Somebody, give somebody, please somebody, give somebody, touch somebody, love somebody, help somebody, help somebody. Today, I see the hurt upon your face, thinking how much more of this can I take? In a minute, I'm about to break. Today, see the pain has purpose, so don't throw it away. There's a harvest if you only wait. Don't walk out now, I need you to stay. Today, oh, I never felt it go like this before. No. But in what you see is all you see. But there's so much more. Somebody, oh, you got to breathe. Oh, we gon' live our lives. We can't waste no more time. We're not looking back no more. Oh, today, I think I feel the weather change. Think I felt my last drop of rain. I believe I'm gonna be okay. Today, see today, I'm still here because of my faith. I believe that is the only way. I said it 'cause I'm not afraid. Today,
Today is the day which has been given to us. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Come into this day made sacred by our presence. Come into this hour made holy by our gathering. Come into this moment made meaningful by our attention. Come, let us worship together. I'm Reverend Kathleen Roland, serving as your interim senior minister. This morning, we welcome 3 generations, Meredith Higgins Hargrave, Anna Hargrave, and Maya Hernandez, to kindle our chalice flame this morning.
She knows what she's doing. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs.
We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together.
Very good.
May it be so.
Kathleen, you're on mute.
Let's join together now in singing an opening hymn, My Life Flows On, in endless song.
My life flows on in endless song, above the flood and beyond. I hear the rhythm far on here, that is a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it will. When though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it will. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to the rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon wide, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Good morning and welcome to All Souls Church. My name is Tim Rhodes and I am serving as your worship associate this morning. Welcome to our longtime members and first-time visitors and guests. For nearly 200 years, our congregation has sought to live up to the vision inherent in our name, All Souls. It's a vision of a human community where all people are welcome at the table, where the divisions that separate us in our daily lives come tumbling down, and we recognize ourselves as part of one human family. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, diverse in many ways, but united in our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and in the obligation to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. We invite you to join us as we seek to create a diverse, justice-seeking, spirit-growing community that is true to the dream of all souls. If you're interested in joining this church, please send a message via the chat to Gary Penn, the Director of Membership Services. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are visiting this morning. We're glad you're with us. Feel free to let us know in the chat where you're viewing us from, and if you'd like to receive our weekly e-newsletter. We move now to our moment of beholding. As the music plays, scroll through the Zoom gallery and share a wave or a greeting in the chat with some of the other folks who are part of the great family of All Souls.
Hello, All Souls. I'm Dolores Miller, the Director of Religious Education. Our All Souls theme for the month of January is resistance. Resistance, not giving in. Sometimes resistance is important and even necessary. For instance, when we won't give in to injustice or hatred. But other times, resistance or not giving in can keep us from opening our hearts and our minds to learning something new. That's the kind of resistance we'll see in today's story.
That Sam I am, that Sam I am, I do not like that Sam I am.
Do you like green eggs and ham?
I do not like green eggs and ham, I do not like them, Sam I am.
Would you like them here or there?
I would not like them here or there, I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham, I do not like them, Sam I am.
Would you like them in a house? Would you like them with a mouse?
I do not like them in a house, I do not like them with a mouse, I do not like them here or there, I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham, I do not like them, Sam I am.
Would you eat them in a box? Would you eat them with a fox?
Not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I would not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am.
Could you in a car? Eat them. Here they are.
I would not, could not in a car.
You may like them, you will see. You may like them in a tree.
I would not, could not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be.
A train. Would you on a train?
Not on a train, not in a tree, not in a car. Sam, let me be.
Could you on a boat?
I would not, could not on a boat. I will not eat them on a train, not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am.
You do not like them, so you say. Try them, and you may. Try them, and you may, I say.
Sam, if you will let me be, I will try them, you will see. Say I like green eggs and ham. I like them, Sam I am. I would eat them on a boat. I will eat them on a train and in a car and in a tree. They're so good, you see. So I will eat them in a box, and I will eat them with a fox. I will eat them in a house, and I will eat them with a mouse. I will eat them here or there. Say I will eat them anywhere. I do so like green eggs and ham. Thank you, Sam I am.
I don't want French fried potatoes, red ripe tomatoes. Believe me, I'm never satisfied. I want the fram sauce with the awesome flavor, with your papa on the side. I don't want pork chops and bacon, that won't awaken my appetite inside. I want the fram sauce with the awesome flavor, with your papa on the side.
Good morning, All Souls. I'm Reverend Rob Keithan, your Minister of Social Justice, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the future. It's now the year 2021, which seems simultaneously impossible and yet also long overdue. So Happy New Year. And here's a few updates and invitations. First, a reminder that we offer religious education for children and youth every Sunday, beginning at 9:30 a.m. In addition to that, other activities are planned and can be found on the church's website and in the e-newsletter. Second, at any point, you can check the church's homepage and scroll through the list of upcoming events. For example, there's a tea time for trans and non-binary congregants of All Souls with Reverend Kathleen on January 6th at 5 p.m. And there's a gathering for all Asian American Pacific Islander identified folks at All Souls on January 8th at 5 p.m. Also, we have 2 monthly drop-in covenant groups meeting this week, which will explore the January theme of resistance. All are welcome to participate. The Zoom info is on the church homepage. One group is tomorrow, Monday at 1 p.m. with me. The other Thursday, January 7th at 7 p.m. with Reverend Kathleen. Finally, there was a special note in the Sunday service email this morning about what All Souls is doing in response to the right-wing demonstrations planned for this Wednesday, January 6th. At this time, we are not encouraging congregants to participate in in-person events downtown. If that changes, it will be posted on the church homepage and Facebook page. I will participate in a physically distanced vigil of religious leaders organized by Luther Place Memorial Church, a downtown congregation and leader in the Washington Interfaith Network. We are encouraging all of you to join with other people of faith and goodwill in acts of solidarity at or near your homes in the form of yard signs and window signs. The more creative and colorful, the better. Rather than shouting at people we know don't agree with us, let's send messages of love and justice and solidarity to the people we can reach, our neighbors and others who actually live in our area. Switching now to pastoral concerns, I have no specific names to mention today, so I will simply offer a general concern for all those who continue to suffer from COVID-19 and other life-threatening circumstances, and for all the families and friends who cannot be together in times of struggle. In the silence that follows, I invite you to say aloud or write into the chat the names of those you carry on your hearts this morning. Spirit of life and love, dear God of endings and beginnings and everything in between, here we are in a new year. For the love of all that is holy and reasonable and just, we pray that it is a better year. Help us to be strong for and with each other, to be loving caregivers for those in need, to be relentless advocates for justice, and to be gracious and kind to ourselves. Fill us with a spirit of hope and possibility. Help us to remember that our past informs but does not determine our future. And with renewed spirits and renewed commitment, let us claim our power to transform ourselves and the world. Amen. Our reading this morning is by United Church of Christ Minister Reverend Kit Novotny. For everything, there is a season and a time for every single thing this side of heaven. A time to be a baby and a time for last breaths. Time to rage incoherently at the state of the world and a time to tuck yourself into soft blankets and drink ginger tea. A time to smash the imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist, hetero patriarchy, and a time to build up the egalitarian, multiracial, anti-racist, environmental, liberationist love movement. A time to make wishes on dandelions, scattering seeds to the wind, and a time to pluck up new weeds, declare them flowers, and make new wishes. A time to ugly cry and let the snot drip down, and a time to belly laugh till your sides ache. A time to grieve, dear ones gone to glory, and a time for dance parties even among graves. A time to deep clean and throw away all the crap that doesn't spark joy, and a time to collect thrift shop treasures and impractical shoes. A time to cuddle so close you get tangled up in embraces and can't tell whose arms are whose, and a time to give each other space to become your whole selves. A time to be on the search for what's next, what's on its way, and a time to let go of what you always thought you'd have. A time to recycle what's ready to go, a time to upcycle what wants keeping, a time to shred all old files, a time to stitch up fresh wounds, a time to get real still and quiet, and a time to yell true things out loud. A time to love what needs loving and a time to hate what needs hating. A time for necessary conflict, holy resistance, and a time for peace, which steadily persists and passes all of our understanding.
Did you know that time travel is possible? I can tell you for certain that it is because I've experienced it myself, and I'll bet you have too. So let me tell you what I mean. You're driving down the highway and your lane is perfectly clear, but you look over on the other side of the highway and you can instantly see what those miles down the road can't see, that there's been an accident or a lane closure, which is backing up the other lane for miles. I think of this as a common experience, as a kind of time travel, because you, the traveler, can see the other lane's future before they can. You are living the past, the present, and the future, all within the boundaries of time and space. This ability we have to remember the past, to be in the present and anticipate the future, it's an infinite source of fascination for us humans. And long ago, the Roman god Janus, for which the month of January is named, was depicted as having two heads, one to look back at the past and one to look forward to the future. So this new year brings with it not only the opportunity to make resolutions about the future and predictions, but to look back at the past and to wonder, what did it all mean? What on earth did 2020 mean? Years from now, historians will be writing about 2020 and the global pandemic that changed the world. And we'll hear about the millions of lost lives, of economic devastation, and how the pandemic revealed systemic racism and classism. We'll hear about how people stayed home and loved each other and got sick of each other, and taught their children and longed to return to school, and yes, even their offices. We'll hear about how the pandemic unleashed depression and grief on a global scale, as well as poetry and art and music and theater done in delightful and surprising new ways. We'll remember George Floyd, whose murder unleashed global protest against police brutality. We'll recall wildfires, hurricanes, and the alarming news that the Arctic Circle is warming faster than previously imagined. We'll recall an impeachment trial, too many scandals to name, a contentious election, and a president who, perhaps while not physically, had to be emotionally carried out of the White House. With 2020 in our rearview mirrors, I'll bet there's plenty of us who would have liked to have a friend in a time traveling vehicle going the other way, who could have warned us with a phone call of what lay ahead on the road that we've been traveling. Of course, none of us can predict the future, or can we? Human beings would love to predict the future, but no one has yet scientifically shown it to be possible unless you are Peter Turchin. Never heard of him? Well, neither had I until I ran across him in a story in last month's Atlantic magazine. Turchin is a former ecologist who has applied mathematical rigor to the study of human history. After studying data from the past 10,000 years of human history, Turchin believes he can, with a degree of certainty, predict the course of American society. And in fact, in 2010, he predicted the nation would begin a period of great turmoil, and that unrest would get serious around 2020, and that it wouldn't let up until certain social and political trends were addressed. Turchin, by collecting and analyzing vast amounts of data, believes that he has discovered laws that can dictate the rise and fall of civilizations. He predicts a dire decade for the United States. And he also offers suggestions for how we can not avoid or avert these predictions, but adapt so that their impact is lessened. Now, I'm a pastor and a preacher. I'm not a prophet or a prognosticator. For very few of us would have Turchin's data set or the skills to interpret it. But what I do have is training in interim ministry and a knowledge of churches in transition. Each church is unique in its history, and yet each church shares common struggles and concerns. So while I've been learning a lot during the time we've spent together about the things that make All Souls unique, I've also been analyzing the data about where we have been in the past to understand better where we might be going in the future. Before I go any further, I want to, first of all, welcome those who are visiting us for the first time. And I want to acknowledge that this part of the sermon that's coming up is focused on the church that you aren't yet a member of. But if you're like many who check out churches at the beginning of the year, you may be considering joining this community. So consider this part of this sermon a primer for your entree to the amazing community that is All Souls. Interim ministry is a lot like the job that Janice has, to look back in the past, to look ahead to the future, often all at the same time. And you've heard me say before that my interim role includes helping you to look at 5 areas of your church's life. They're called the developmental tasks of interim ministry. They are history, identity, leadership, denominational connections, and future plans, in order to prepare you for your next chapter. I've been with you now 6 months, and I've had dozens of one-on-one conversations with members past and present. I've studied your history, your governance documents. I've heard about your shining moments and your dark nights. So I've begun to identify some of the issues that All Souls will be grappling with during this interim time. One of the most important things that makes us human is our ability to project ourselves into the future and imagine a conversation with our future self. So I want you to imagine with me that it is now 2041 and you are sitting in a semi-lit sanctuary at All Souls on New Year's Eve. And in this large circle, you have been asked to think back on 2020, one of the worst years on the planet. What were you doing? A 20-year-old new member of All Souls asked you. Looking back, what do you think your future self would say about the times that we're in right now? What were the issues that were important to you, to the church, to the nation, to the world? Well, I imagine that one person in that circle might begin by saying something like, well, the building was shut down for almost a year, but the church was very much open. We worshiped, we gathered, we stayed connected. Another person might say, we still heard music performed by our amazing All Souls musicians. Another will remember the great videos that the then Director of Religious Education and Communications Director produced. The lifelong All Souls members in that circle, now young adults, some of them with kids of their own, will look back on those videos they were in and recall, perhaps with a slightly romanticized lens that comes with looking back at our childhood, how much fun the pandemic times were. And then someone else in the circle, the 21st century version of Lawrence Staples, will be beginning the task of updating All Souls history again. And they'll say, hey, what was the name of that interim minister we had for a while? The one after Reverend Hardy's left, but before we got our next ministry? Oh, I can't remember her name, another will say, but I do remember she kept preaching to us about these developmental tasks of interim ministry over and over again, like a broken record. So if someone were to ask me 20 years from now, what do I remember from this unique time in the history of All Souls, the first week of January 21, I would probably say that there are two main developmental tasks that engaged me as this year with you began, and they were your history and your identity. The other three areas I've mentioned will have their time, but right now, it's pretty easy to imagine that history and identity will be foremost in 2021. So here's an issue that ties together both your history and your future identity. I've heard stories about what the church was like during Reverend David Eaton's ministry. And some of these stories include a longing for the church to regain the number of Black members as experienced during the years of Eaton's ministry. I've heard a concern expressed by some members that as All Souls grows, its membership will become wider, and our Black members will find themselves in an even greater minority than they are now. And likewise, some members who are people of color but who don't identify as Black are also wondering how is their identity, their experience, and their numbers reflected in the culture of All Souls. Currently, the church is composed of about 13% of people who identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. The tipping point for any lasting change and to decenter the culture of white supremacy is about 20% of BIPOC members in church leadership, staff, worship, and attendance in small groups. So the larger question, one that will extend far beyond my tenure with you, is how will the racial and ethnic makeup of All Souls reflect the diverse DC community in which we live and serve while decentering whiteness? Now, I want to affirm that while we have not yet reached the promised land, the eighth principle is providing a roadmap to help us get there. And much good, hard, and joyous work is already underway. The other part of All Souls identity, which is under review, is the role of the senior minister. It seems natural that a church this size would embrace a senior minister as not only the primary preacher and spiritual leader of the congregation, but the face of the church to the wider community. The senior minister is the one who shows up to testify, who is the one holding the megaphone, who serves as head of staff. Or do they? The role of a sole senior minister is under review in many Unitarian Universalist churches our size. And this raises more questions. What are the benefits and the deficits of the senior minister model? Can we get clear enough about the various roles and responsibilities of the ministry the church needs that a new model could work better? What might the downsides be of such a model? Might the reality be that any new team of ministers wind up sort of running a three-legged potato sack race, eventually getting to the finish line, but with a lot of stumbles and falls along the way? These conversations are directly linked to All Souls history, identity, and of course, future. One final piece of All Souls history and identify that I expect we will need to work on this year is, what does it mean to live together in beloved community when we have been wounded or hurt? And particularly when that hurt is caused by words and actions of our fellow church members. The wounds left by the departure of Reverend Susan Newman Moore, and for some of Reverend Hardy's ministry, are still there. But I want to stress, not for most of All Souls members. One member of All Souls said to me, you know, as a Black person who has my entire life worked in mostly white institutions, I expect these things. I expect conflict. I don't carry it with me. Other members are not there yet. Recent issues have brought back into conversation the hopeful beginning and the disappointing end of Reverend Dan Aldridge's ministry, which has made me wonder, what are the lingering feelings from this chapter of All Souls history that go right to the heart of today's questions about All Souls' future identity? This will be an important piece of interim work during our time together. So let's go back now to that circle in the sanctuary in 2041. 20 years from now, as we look back at this interim time, here's what I hope we will be able to say. We did some good healing work on our history and our identity. And by the time our next ministry was beginning, we were ready. We were in a good place. But to be able to look back and tell that story, we have some work to do right now, because that's what we have right now. And that's what this morning's reading was intended to help us focus on. UCC Pastor Reverend Novotny's interpretation of this classic scripture from the book of Ecclesiastes reminds us of the importance of knowing what is required of us for each moment. I think it serves as a good guide for the interim time too, as we discern together, what are the most important things we need to do right now? What are the things that can wait? And what things should we simply let go of? So I want to close by echoing the last stanza of her brilliant interpretation of Ecclesiastes 2. For everything there is a season, and a time for every single thing this side of heaven. A time to shred old files and a time to stitch up fresh wounds. A time to get real still and quiet, and a time to yell true things out loud. A time to love what needs loving and a time to hate what needs hating. A time for necessary conflict, holy resistance, and a time for peace, which steadily persists and passes all our understanding. May 2021 be our time to engage in necessary conflict, a holy resistance, and a great, joyous, and welcome peace. Happy New Year, All Souls, blessings. I continue to feel grateful to be at your service. May it be so.
We've been gone for such a long time that I'm almost afraid to go home. A long road is a
One of the great passions of my life has always been the joy of choral singing. It's something that I have sorely missed and yearned for over the past year. As I pause and reflect upon that activity in light of our inability to gather within our sanctuary, I have come to realize that the true joy in singing is not simply in the outward vocalization of words and tones, but more importantly, it is in the listening. Hearing the voices surrounding us with a harmonic blend of various textures of voice which express the human spirit. In fact, I find I miss most the unity of a simple congregational hymn sang in unison, when all, regardless of ability or training, express and hear from one another the depth of our love for all creatures of our Mother Earth. Nevertheless, as we embark upon this new year, I am filled with hope and faith that soon we again may return to our sanctuary, worship, and to sing together again. Now is a time in our service when we consider how much this church means to us, how much we can give back to our church community. While I have found great joy in giving to the church through music, I know that that alone is insufficient to sustain the important work of building beloved community. As the plate passes this morning, I invite you to consider the importance of this church in your life and to give generously. The morning offering will now be received.
I'm on my way to the freedom net.
Hear now these words by Reverend Egbert Ethelred Brown, first African American to be ordained as a Unitarian minister in 1912. As we pray for peace in our time, may we ourselves be at peace with the world, with ourselves, and with one another. May we, after hearing the message of this day, leave this time inspired and strengthened faithfully to fulfill the duties of tomorrow. Blessings, go in peace, and Happy New Year. Please do stay for coffee hour after, immediately following this service. Rose will put us into various rooms eventually. If you would like the ASL interpreter to stay, please put a note in the chat so we can let Mia know that. All right, can't wait to talk with you in coffee hour.